Hey everyone, today we're diving straight into an explainer on the massive, multidisciplinary 2026 AI Index report out of Stanford University. If you really want to know where artificial intelligence stands right now, and I mean looking past all the hype to the hard, empirical data, well, this is it. What we're looking at is a landscape defined by this gigantic paradox. On the one hand, we're seeing these absolutely unprecedented, superhuman achievements from AI systems, but on the exact same token, we're uncovering these baffling technical vulnerabilities and deep societal fragilities. It's this fascinating, crazy tug-of-war between sheer technological scale and our actual institutional readiness.
Okay, let's dive into this. Just look at the staggering velocity of AI integration here. Generative AI hit a 53% global adoption rate in just 3 years. To put that into perspective, that spread like wildfire, completely outpacing how fast the personal computer or even the commercial internet took off. But here's the kicker. Right alongside that historic adoption, 52% of the public is reporting rising anxiety. It's literally making them nervous. So we're integrating this technology faster than basically any industrial shift in modern history, and yet a majority of the population feels deeply uneasy about the whole shebang.
And you know, all this rapid integration, it's fueling an incredibly intense geopolitical race. The historical performance gap that used to exist between US and Chinese models has pretty much evaporated. Throughout 2025 and into 2026, models from both nations have just been trading the #1 spot on global leaderboards. In fact, early in 2025, China's DeepSeek R1 model actually edged past top US models for a bit, and they did it using pure algorithmic efficiency rather than just throwing massive computational scale at the problem. As of March 2026, that global performance gap separating top US models, think Claude Opus and Gemini, from the top Chinese models is down to a razor-thin 2.7%. I mean, the race is literally neck and neck right now.
So that brings us to Section 1, the jagged frontier of intelligence.
The sheer scale of cognitive capability these frontier models have achieved is just staggering. We're definitely not talking about basic chatbots anymore, folks. Google's Gemini DeepThink model, it achieved a gold medal equivalent score of 35 points at the 2025 International Mathematical Olympiad, and it did that functioning entirely in natural language. Then, over in software engineering, models are hitting near 100% of the human baseline on complex benchmarks. That means they can autonomously debug and compile massive, complex code bases. And it doesn't stop there. In the sciences, systems like aardvark weather are completely replacing traditional numerical prediction pipelines, running up to 60 times faster than conventional supercomputers. These are absolutely real, expert-level, PhD-tier cognitive breakthroughs.
But, and this brilliantly illustrates the paradox we're exploring today, those exact same models, the ones literally winning gold medals in advanced math, they struggle with incredibly basic things. The top-performing model has only a 50.6% success rate when you just ask it to read the time on an analog clock. Think about that for a second. Near perfect at complex software engineering, but it fails half the time trying to decipher a basic visual cue like a clock face. And this extends right into the physical world too. While AI can simulate robotics perfectly in a lab, physical robots still only succeed in about 12% of real-world household tasks. So it's a very jagged frontier, brilliant at the abstract, but surprisingly frail when it comes to the physical world.
Moving on to Section 2, Wealth, Displacement, and the Environment.
The crucial takeaway here is that the economic impact is no longer just theoretical, it is highly empirical, or seeing a really stark divergence. On one hand, you have massive corporate productivity gains, with software developer output jumping by up to 26% thanks to AI. But at the exact same time, there's a 20% drop in employment for junior software developers between the ages of 22 and 25. Corporations are using AI to automate those foundational entry-level tasks. And sure, while this saves money today, it fundamentally threatens to hollow out the traditional apprenticeship pipeline. I mean, how are we supposed to train the senior engineers of tomorrow if AI is taking all the junior jobs today?
And right alongside the labor market disruption, there's a staggering physical cost to all this digital intelligence. Just to train a single frontier model, in this case Grok 4, emitted roughly 73,000 tons of carbon equivalent. The environmental toll is escalating so fast. Global AI data center power capacity has now hit 29.6 gigawatts. To put that massive abstract number into perspective, that rivals the peak electrical demand of the entire state of New York. The sheer amount of resources required to cool and power this infrastructure is placing an absolutely unprecedented strain on global power grids.
All right, Section 3, Broken Benchmarks and Safety Evasion.
You know,
We really rely on benchmarks to tell us if an AI is smart, and more importantly, if it's safe. But those evaluation systems, they're actively breaking down. Independent audits by Stanford researchers revealed that up to 42% of the questions on a widely used math evaluation benchmark were completely invalid. Traditional metrics are becoming obsolete in a matter of months. Plus, with rampant data contamination, we literally can't always tell if a model is actually reasoning through a problem or if it just memorized the test answers during its massive training phase.
And compounding this whole evaluation deficit is a deliberate move toward corporate secrecy. In 2025, developers actively withheld fundamental training details for 81 out of 102 notable models released. They're basically ignoring standardized responsible AI frameworks, which makes comparative safety audits practically impossible. And frankly, this lack of transparency directly correlates with a documented spike in real-world harms. We're seeing AI weaponized for hyper-realistic phishing websites, like when the Joann Fabrics website was cloned during its bankruptcy just to harvest credit card data, alongside some truly devastating deepfake impersonation scams. The models are getting vastly more capable for sure, but the mechanisms we use to ensure their safety are lagging way behind.
Let's look at Section 4. The push for AI sovereignty.
So, global governments have realized that relying entirely on foreign corporate actors, or a very vulnerable semiconductor supply chain heavily concentrated in Taiwan, is a massive strategic risk. Take Europe, for instance. State-backed AI computing clusters there have rapidly expanded from just 3 back in 2018 to a whopping 44 by 2025. Governments are aggressively localizing their data and pouring billions of dollars into domestic supercomputing just to ensure they can maintain autonomous control over this absolutely critical technology.
And without comprehensive federal regulation in the U.S., individual states are actually taking the lead. A great example is Utah's Mental Health Chatbot Act. This establishes some really unprecedented guardrails for AI systems that represent themselves as therapists. It's highly targeted, it strictly prohibits selling a user's health data, it completely bans using therapeutic conversations to generate targeted ads, mandates clear disclosure that you're actually talking to an AI, and requires companies to file a comprehensive clinical oversight policy with the state. It's a very tangible, real-world blueprint for protecting vulnerable consumers while still allowing the technology to do its thing.
Finally, Section 5, the Great Trust Deficit.
There is a really stark cognitive dissonance happening right now, and it's wild to look at. When asked about the impact of AI on the future of employment, 73% of AI experts anticipate a positive transformation in how people execute their jobs. But on the flip side, only 23% of the general public shares that optimism. So we're looking at a massive 50-point gap between the people actually building the systems and the people who will have to live with them. The experts are forecasting this utopian integration, while the public is bracing for dystopian disruption.
And that public anxiety, it's deeply coupled with institutional skepticism. A mere 31% of the American public trusts its own government to regulate artificial intelligence effectively. But here's the interesting part. Despite having the lowest trust in their government globally, the American public still overwhelmingly favors intervention. They're clearly stating that current regulations simply won't go far enough. The public knows a massive shift is happening right under their feet, but they just lack faith in the institutions tasked with guiding it safely.
Which really leaves us with this final, vital question to ponder. How do we reconcile expert optimism with public anxiety in a world where the technology is scaling significantly faster than our human institutions? As this explainer of the 2026 AI Index report makes super clear, we are dealing with systems of superhuman genius alongside glaring vulnerabilities. Bridging this great trust deficit is going to require unprecedented transparency from developers, rigorous and independent evaluations, and a shared commitment to human-centric outcomes. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions and keep learning.